welcome back. We are here for episode 4. I was thinking this morning, I was like, do I say episode 4? Like, how long do I kind of continue on the episode 4, episode 5? Like,
we'll start to lose count.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. It'll be like the child who's like 275 months old.
Yeah.
But we are back. Today we are talking about modern dating and dating apps and how like technology is affecting like the way that we meet people, the way that we act in relationships, and like our experience with it.
So I think we were wanting to start each podcast with a segment, what we're struggling with this week and how we're powering through it. And I think we forgot last
week.
Yeah, but we're going to kick that back off again. So Loz, what have you been struggling with this week?
I've been a bit homesick this week. I think, you and I both moved to the Gold Coast around about the same time. And for the most part, it's been amazing. Like, I've loved it. Everyone who's asked me has been like, how are you finding it? I'm like, it's as good as it looks. Like, it's incredible. But yeah, there's moments where I just kind of, I'm very close with my family and I miss having them like just down the road. You know what I mean? Well, they weren't down the road. It was like an hour away. But the ability to go and see them, I guess, like whenever I want. Just being around those people who love you, you know what I mean? It's like, all of the friendships and things up here, whilst they're great, are still very new. And sometimes I crave just being around, the people who've known me since I was literally born.
There's a comfort in that, I think.
Yeah. You feel like you can be, like they just know me, you know what I mean? So, I've had but the thing is, it's like I've been making probably more of an effort than when I was in Melbourne. So like I've been calling my parents a lot more. Like I've called mum twice this week. I don't think that's happened ever. So she's thrilled. And like called my sister and stuff. So I guess like that's how I'm powering through it. But yeah, it does get hard sometimes being away from them. What about you?
Yeah, of course. So for me, my biggest struggle, I think, over the last week kind of ties into the last one that I was talking about. And I think I'm struggling psychologically at the moment with feeling like my training doesn't really have a solid direction and that I can't really give 100% to my training. So I mentioned in some of the previous podcasts how I have been working through gut protocols and things like that. Like this year for me has been about focusing on my health and trying to address some underlying issues that I've kind of had for a long time but just kind of tried to forget about. I continue to compete each year and just kind of push that to the side. So I'm kind of at the point now where this year was dedicated to working on that. But it's probably been 16 or so weeks now where I haven't been able to train at 100% intensity. And I also am not training competitively towards something for probably the first time since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Because I have been an athlete and involved in sports literally since I was 8 years old. So I think on the weekend just gone, we had a big weekend of sports here in the Gold Coast. So we had the turf games on. So a lot of people were doing that, which is like a functional fitness, CrossFit style comp.
Yep.
There was also a bunch of bodybuilding shows on. It's the middle of the bodybuilding season at the moment. So a lot of people are competing in that. And I think I just kind of feel a little deflated that I can't be training towards something like that. Like I was around all these high-performing athletes on the weekend and I just miss that for myself. So that's probably what I'm struggling with the most at the moment. Haven't quite figured out how to power through that yet because I still don't feel like I've gotten where I need to with my health to be in a position to commit to my next goal, but I'm just craving it so bad. Like I can't wait to throw myself back into a training goal and something competitive again.
Yeah. I think even just admitting that you're like probably struggling with it is a way of like powering through it, because you could just kind of go and like watch things and be like, yeah, like this is great, but like just you saying, hey, this kind of sucks to just watch and like not be a part of it. Yeah, I think is probably like a step forward. Could you like even redefine, I guess like you're 100% right in terms of like when you talk about intensity, probably comparing it to like a past intensity. I'd say you probably are training at your current 100%. Would you agree or not?
Oh, most of my sessions at the moment, I'm trying to hold back. So
yeah.
I'm not pushing myself to train to full intensity. So no, I am holding back a little bit, but I think it's the lack of the competitive goal
Yeah.
and the very clear goal that I'm kind of struggling with, because I've always had one of those. Always.
Yeah. And like health as a goal is not as
It's
clear
not
cut.
as shiny.
Yeah.
It's just not as fun.
How do I know when I get there? How do I know when I've achieved health?
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a really hard one to measure when it comes to these like gut protocols and stuff. And it is a never ending lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And I know that it's important and it's worth it, but I think I mentioned in the last what I'm struggling through after Europe, I just feel like I kind of gone backwards a little bit in terms of that health progression that I had made. So it's just like, when is it going to end? It feels a bit never ending at the moment.
And it can feel a bit like when you're training, your effort, you can often see like, okay, when this happens, when I do this, this happens. Like I get this kind of much progress. But like with the health stuff that you're doing, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm doing all of these things and I can't see anything. And I feel like that's probably like quite deflating as well.
Yeah, you don't really get to see that progress for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't show up until down the track and you're like, am I still getting sick all the time or am I not?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit harder to measure. We'll jump into today's actual topic. So dating, which is a bit of a spicy one. I've been excited for our first relationship topic. I think we'll start by like explaining, I guess, like our current status, where we're at, without going into, you know, the past 12 months dating history, but just like where we're at, because I think where we're at is quite common to a lot of people who might be listening to this, which is like late 20s, early 30s, although Bec did try and make me past 30 last year. I am not. I'm 29. Last episode, sorry. Dating, which is like we're in this phase where a lot of people are moving in different directions. And what I mean by that is like you might have friends who have like 3 kids. You might have a friend who is engaged. You might have a friend who is gallivanting Europe by herself. You know what I mean? Like when you're 20, 21, everyone's kind of doing the same thing and at the same stage of life. Whereas like when you get to this age, it's like you might be divorced now. You might have already had a marriage. Like it's all very different. And so like, I guess navigating this kind of dating environment can be a struggle sometimes and feel like, especially if you've got a lot of friends in relationships, which I have had in the past and still do, feel like, oh my God, I better hurry up and find someone kind of thing. So I'm single. That's my status. I wouldn't say I'm actively dating. We're going to talk about dating apps today. I'm on an app. I wouldn't say I am on there much, but my profile's on there. How would you describe your current status?
Yeah, my current dating status is single and just letting what's meant to happen, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not on any dating apps. I don't
Oh,
really...
you're not? I thought you were.
No, I haven't been on dating apps for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I'm not really into the dating apps. And the biggest reason why I feel like I'm not into dating apps is, for me, like attraction to someone comes down to like their energy and charisma and how they carry themselves in real life. So I find it really hard with a dating app, even though someone might look attractive in their photos. I don't think I've ever met anyone off a dating app where I've actually been like really attracted to them.
Not
straight
ever.
up. No, I don't think so. Like there's been people that I've thought, oh yeah, like they're okay.
Yeah.
But you know, when you just meet someone in real life and within 10 seconds, you know, like if there's going to be a vibe or attraction there. I think for me, because it is such an energetic thing, attraction, the dating apps just don't seem to work for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's what I mean when I'm saying like I'm on there. I actually had it deleted for months, many months. I only got it back like last week, and I make sure that when I am on there, and the reason is I was like, I'm working so much. I'm like not really doing the organic things, which we'll get into a little bit, as much as I was. I was like, you know, I make sure I'm on there with intention. Like I'm not just like getting a bunch of likes to like make me feel good. I have a rule that I'm like, I only will match with someone if like I am actually going on a date with them. Like if I would, right, if they asked. But I'm the same. Like I'm on them, off them, but like I would say as a whole, I don't like them for largely the same reason that you said. Like I'm an energy person and I know within 10 seconds. And so I have been on dates from dating apps where, and it sounds like it's not a judgmental thing or whatever. It's just, you just know.
Yeah.
Like, you just know, like, if after 10 seconds of conversation, I'm like, nah, this is not it. And then you're like, fuck, now I've got to be here for the next 2 hours. And I know in my head that, like, this is not it. But then you'll find people in real life who I go, yeah, I probably would have said no to you on an app, but I really like vibe with you.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you are using them and like meeting people off apps, like that's okay.
Yeah.
But you need to go into it knowing that if you aren't attracted to them, that it's just an opportunity to like connect with another human being and like get to know someone's story, and you might learn something from it. Otherwise, you can get like really disheartened, I suppose, because there are those people that you do meet up with and you just can tell you're not going to be into them in the first 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really hard to not act that way then for the rest of the day. Like, how do I be like polite and nice whilst making sure that I am not leading you on or giving you any sort of indication that this is going, quote unquote, well. But when you're kind of like navigating through them, there's people who probably like are spending a lot more time on them and like kind of actively dating, right? It's like, this is, and I like would encourage it. If you've got a goal, like put time into it. Like if that is really something that is like a priority for you, I would say, yeah, like you have to go on a lot of dates, like to find the person, like that's fine. But when you're kind of like going through them, it can feel a little bit like exhausting as well. Cause it's like, fuck, like another conversation, like another like, oh, they stopped responding. Like, I think I got over that as well, but I'm probably as much of a culprit as to stop responding as well as the other person.
Well, you have a really low investment because you've never actually met them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's probably why.
Yeah, 100%. But it can feel like a bit of a slog sometimes. How long has it been since like you have been on an app?
Quite a few months now.
Yeah.
Haven't been on for a while. But yeah, I think with the apps, it's also people have such mixed intentions on there. I do think people tend to download them when they're just a bit lonely for a little bit of entertainment, not necessarily because they have the intention to meet up with people. So sometimes that can be a bit of a time waster as well because you don't really know what people's intentions are on there.
Yeah, correct. I think on the loneliness thing, I think we've like really like lost the ability to feel lonely, like especially with social media and dating apps and all of those things. Yeah, I think it is like questioning what is my intention in being here. Because it's like it's a bit of a joke, like the Sunday night download of Hinge or whatever, insert dating app. Because people get to Sunday night, they feel a bit sad and they just want to sit there and like scroll and just know that, oh, okay, cool, 10 people think I'm hot, like.
Yeah, that validation.
Yeah. And that's a hard habit to break, but I see it a lot, especially with like young girls. And I think I probably was like that for a while too. Maybe like when I was 21, 22, it wasn't like as dating app heavy, but still like now it's easier to seek validation. You know what I mean? Like before you had to make an Instagram post or like do something like that. And so like breaking that like validation seeking cycle is something I try and like encourage people to do as well. Is like just learn how to be lonely. Like just learn how to kind of sit there and recognize that kind of like craving for attention, but know that like where you're going for like your little short-term dopamine hit is not actually what you're craving. Like you're craving connection. You're not going to get it there.
Yeah, that's true. And we can get connection from all different places. Like it doesn't have to be in an intimate relationship kind of context. Like we can satisfy that human connection need through friends or family. Like we do need to get comfortable with being lonely, but I think as well we can kind of reach out for other sorts of human connection. We don't have to go on to those external sources of validation from people that we don't even know on the internet.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's like if you are sitting there on a Sunday night, like feeling lonely, like message a friend or someone or a family member or like someone who you actually know like gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
Like not someone who is going to be like, hey, how was your weekend? And you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm bored already. Like
Same combo over and over again.
I want to talk about the conversations on there just quickly. Because jumping back on, say if I do match with someone, right? I do get into like how do I start this? Because every way that I'm going to start it, I'd fucking hate to receive. When you're like, hey, how was your weekend? I'm like, oh my God, I'm bored by that chat, so I'm not going to send it. I'm like, I really don't. You've got to ask me out in probably the first like 2 hours if you want anything to happen on an app because I'll just get bored.
Yeah, the conversation starters on there just ain't it half the time. I know when I was on it, I would only reply to people who actually gave me like exciting or interesting sentences or replies to the prompts. Otherwise, like if it was just a hey, how are you?
Bye. No. Yeah. Unmatched. Like Lauren has left the chat.
Yeah.
Like literally though. But it also makes a difference, I find, like which thing, and I know you're not on them, but you can still weigh in, you've been on them. Like which thing they respond to.
Yeah.
Like if it's like a photo or something, I'm like, yeah. But if it's like an actual like something that I've written, I'm like, okay, this person is a little bit more invested. Or maybe I'm just reading into things.
Yeah, I think you could probably say that. Or at least maybe they have more genuine intention of actually like meeting and connecting with someone. Because I guess there's people on there just for casual things as well, hey?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that like guys and girls use the apps differently?
Not necessarily from what I've heard from male perspectives of what's on there. I can't say I've had a look at the apps in terms of what women are posting, but from what I've heard, I think it's equally as mixed of a bag on both ends.
Yeah. Because I think what I mean by that is like, I think guys can probably get like a bad rap on like the dating apps, you know, that they're on there just trying to sleep with people, which they probably have to. I'd like to talk to a guy about this. Probably have to like fight a bit of an uphill battle, right? Because I going into it, my default assumption is like, you're just trying to fuck me.
Yeah. So I guess if you have the worst intentions of them, it's probably not going to get you very far.
No, but I mean like, you know, there's got to be like guys on there who don't feel that way or, you know, that's not why they're doing it, right? But like, I think the reputation of like dating apps and things like that can be that like it's a very like male, you know, scrolling, like just trying on a, like Saturday night, Sunday morning, 1 a.m. Are you up kind of text. And like I don't think it's like that so much anymore, but I do know, and maybe it's like that's a me problem, that I probably go into them a little bit cynical, which is probably a reason that I need to delete it again. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I do think that there's women on there with that same intention. It's just that we haven't seen it. So I guess it's kind of hard for us to talk on it because, yeah, from what I've heard from male friends, like it is quite equal. It goes both ways. Like there's women on there just for that reason as well, which is so fine.
Yeah.
But it's just something I don't think that we've seen. So
yeah,
hard for us to really like pass comment or judgment on it, I think.
Yeah, true. No, like none of this stuff, like when we're talking about like the dating apps and stuff, we're not saying like this is how to do it correctly or like
this is bad.
This
or
is bad.
like
Yeah,
that.
No. This is more just like why we don't like them.
And an analysis of how it's kind of changed the dating world, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because on that, I think that dating apps and one of the worst things that it's kind of done for society is that people don't approach you in real life that much anymore.
No.
Which is such a shame because I feel like people are so reliant on apps or social media to reach out to you because then they can hide behind their screen. And I guess that is also a way to avoid rejection.
Oh, yeah.
At least face-to-face rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people just don't approach you much in real life anymore, which it's so weird because I just remember, I'm showing my age here, but I remember when there was like no social media and no dating apps.
Yeah.
And it was like you had to like go home and log into your computer and get on MSN to talk to somebody. So
oh my God, I used to like log out and log back in just so I'd be like the person that I was crushing on could see that I was online.
That's so funny.
No, just me? Okay.
I cannot remember. It was that long ago. But yeah, like it's just so easy to do it online nowadays that people, I think, just don't approach you in real life as much anyway.
Yeah. I think on the rejection, I literally just like wrote down rejection because I think that we've, again, like lost the inability to be rejected. Like that's what dating apps are, right? It's like I can tell you I like you, but I don't see you sit there and go, oh, no. Like I get to be safe and like I just kind of goes into the abyss of the dating app and I don't have to like feel that rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we've kind of like lost that ability in a lot of realms, you know, like the ability to handle rejection is a skill that will kind of help you in all areas. But I think we don't want to go and speak to someone now unless we're like 100% sure that they like us back. And that is like, ruining these kind of in-person meetups or like in-person connections because you're constantly like, do they like me? Do they not? Like, and that's kind of part of it. Like we're meant to be trying to figure that out. Like you can't have a giant sign on you that's like, I also like you too.
Yeah.
Like that's the dance, right? Of like, that's what makes humans humans. Like trying to read body language and, you know, did this mean this? And, you know, actually being in like the moment with someone trying to figure out like signs and signals and, oh, they said this and they touched my arm and blah, blah, blah. Like just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Do you think as well, so I guess in a going out sort of context, like going to a bar, that's obviously a way that a lot of people will go out to try and meet people. Do you think that people tend to not approach you in bars as much anymore because they've already kind of organised to meet up with someone from an app or from online and therefore that's part of the reason why they don't approach you?
It's a good question. I do. I don't think it's necessarily the fact that they have organised it maybe already, but they've probably got, like a list of like, oh, well, instead of going and trying to like, you know, pick up that girl over there, I'll just go to my app and be like, that's probably what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just go to my app and like message someone there because I know that person likes me.
And you also know that they're single, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas in face-to-face, you don't know if that person at the bar is single or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a less, is risky the right word? Like, it's like a less risky bet.
Yeah.
And I just think it's lazier as well. Like I can sit here and how many times do you see like when people are out and it's like if you look up and like look around and like everyone's on their phone.
Yeah.
It makes me really scared for like the future, to be honest. Like because I'm just like we're out but we're fucking not talking to each other. Like and we're not, I don't think like picking up at a bar or anything like that. Yeah, I don't really see it that much anymore. Not that I'm at a lot of bars, but I don't see the guys, like kind of playing the game a little bit and they're all sitting there on their phones probably liking some girl on Instagram's photo. Like, I think it's having a big effect because I don't think that guys want to come up if there's any sort of chance of you saying no. And it's a skill, right? Like, which the less you do it, the less they're going to want to do it. So it's like, fuck, I haven't tried to pick up a girl in a year. I'm not going to want to do it because now I don't even really know how.
Yeah, I definitely think it happens a lot less nowadays. And so personally, I find it really attractive if someone does approach me in
100%.
person because it is a lot rarer. And it's like a really nice, like masculine energy kind of thing for a guy to do. Just come up to you and like shoot their shot.
Yeah, literally.
Like start a conversation.
Yeah, and isn't it like I was speaking to a friend the other day about how as a guy, and again, we can only speak from this from the female side. As a guy, the bar is so low now in terms of like like if a guy comes up to you in a bar, you're like, oh my God, the guy had enough confidence to come up and speak to me. Big tick.
Yeah.
Like you like to be not shit, you really don't have to do. You just have to do basic like human things, like have enough confidence to like say hello and like maybe look me in my eyes. Like you're already like half the way past everybody else who's looking down at their phone or in my DMs.
What do you think about, obviously, we're talking a lot about bars and people approaching you in a bar. What about other
Which you
organic?
and I never go out drinking.
Let's talk about other organic contexts where we actually go.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, we're both not huge drinkers, and I know for me, like, it's really important to me that meeting someone that they do live like a healthy and fit lifestyle. And to me, I don't think I'm going to meet the person that I would be with in a bar at 1 a.m. because I probably don't want to be there either.
Correct, yeah.
In saying that, I guess sometimes people do end up in those contexts because their friends want them to be out. So I guess we can't be too cynical and rule it out. But I think that meeting people organically nowadays is a lot harder.
Yeah.
And what do you think about meeting people organically when you aren't into the party scene?
It's something that scares a lot of people, I know, when they're talking about, I was actually talking to them about the moving away from drinking before. And there's a lot of fear around it from people. And I think dating is one element, because it's like, if you're single and you're like, well, I don't really want to drink or party that much anymore, how am I going to meet someone? And that was something that I did fear. I was like, how do I do this without kind of going out on a Saturday night or anything like that? But as you said, you come to the realization where you're like, well, I don't want to be there on a Saturday night, so the person that I want to hang out with probably also doesn't want to be there on a Saturday night. So I'm probably fishing in the wrong pond, even if I did go out. I would say I make friends and dating, I put them in the same kind of like circle in terms of like what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, it's all really just connection, in my opinion. And so it's like just going to do the things that you like doing, not with the intention of like, all right, I'm going to go to this surfing lesson to pick up, because then your energy is going to be all off. But like going to do the things, like if you like trying new things, if you like training, if you like, you know, whatever it is that you like, going to the beach or anything like that. It's going and doing those things just for the sake of doing them because you like doing them. But the people that also like doing them are there. Like it's a very easy filtration system because you know that you already have something in common.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it's probably even harder for people to approach you in those contexts because they don't have the liquid courage as well.
Correct.
Yeah, so it does make it hard, but I think what you said is bang on. Like you need to put yourself just in situations where like-minded people are going to be if they're the kind of people that you want to connect with.
Yeah. On the alcohol thing as well, because, yeah, you can go, oh, it's scarier because I don't have the liquid courage. I wanted to completely remove alcohol from dating because it might seem like an obvious statement, but it impairs my judgment. Like, I want to be there. And I'm not saying drinking on dates is bad or whatever, like you do you. But for me, like, I want to be fully present, firstly. Second, you know, we've all been on the date where, like, when you're sober, you're like, yeah. After 4 drinks, you're like, oh my God, this guy is hilarious and he's so hot. Like, and it's just not, it's not real. Like, you just become a bit more, I don't know, like, I just don't trust myself as much. Right. And so it's like, I think for me, like completely removing alcohol out of it helps me. Even on the dating apps though, which it can be a little bit of a struggle, it's often a let's go get a drink, like as the first date kind of option. And you have to almost be like, oh, I don't drink, or, you know, let's do something else, which again, it's like, it sounds like it makes things more difficult. But from my opinion, or my point of view, it's a filter, because it's like if I go, oh, I don't really drink, and they kind of don't come back with a second option, it's like, well, I've probably just saved myself a date anyway.
Yeah, that's true. They're probably not aligned with you then. I think it's just a low effort option for when you haven't met someone yet as well on a dating app. Like people probably think going for a drink is, you know, if you don't vibe,
it's not a
you
whole
can just
meal.
Leave after the drink.
Yeah.
So it is quite a safe option.
I'm a coffee and a walk kind of person.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the Gold Coast are.
Yeah.
So that probably works out all right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I actually had written down as well, as like low stake first dates. Like what would be your go-to first date? Like if someone was to ask you out, what would you want them to propose?
I think it would depend on whether I've met them or not before.
Okay.
If I
Let's go to haven't met them.
If I hadn't met them, I think, yeah, like coffee, walk, sunrise, kind of something low-key like that. But if I had met them, still probably something that's, I guess, not your norm. So, I don't know, take me to a waterfall or something. That would be an ideal kind of date for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I like using sunrise as a filter system as well. Because I'm like, will you get up at 5 in the morning for me?
Yeah.
Like if it's a yes, I'm like, you're already a tick. If they're like, oh, it's a bit early, I'm like, it's not going to work.
It's like if someone asked me on a date at 9 p.m.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
We're not going to live the same lifestyles. You and I were talking about this the other day as well, how like lifestyle alignment is not something that like really gets spoken about a lot with dating, but is a very, very important part of like whether or not a relationship is going to work or not. Like whether or not you like kind of getting up at the same time. And I'm not saying you have to like live the identical lives, but just, you know, how do you like spending your free time? You know, how do you eat? Like, you know, if you're all those sorts of things. If one person, you know, has Uber Eats 5 nights a week, like that person would not be for me. Like, and they could be the best person in the world, but it's just, I think if you're living different lives or how you like to live them, like that's a factor. I think we can get stuck on the like, oh, but we have really good chemistry and we forget about all the other shit until like it's, you know, 12 months in and there's like Uber Eats wrappers all over the bench and you're like, fuck, I should have known this from the very start.
Yeah, chemistry tends to overrule logic, I think, a lot of the time in dating. But yeah, lifestyle compatibility, I think, is huge, especially, I guess sleep and wake times and interest in health and fitness, like those sorts of things would be key for me. Like you don't have to get up exactly the same time as me in the morning, but
No.
I think overall having generally similar lifestyles helps in terms of longevity of building something with someone.
Yeah, for sure. No, you don't have to get up at the same time. I prefer actually that you got up after me so then I can get up at my time, get ready, and then you can do whatever you want. This is just me just building my own dating ad. I'm like, all right, you need to be up at 5:30. You were speaking before about the meeting organically, and I kind of went into like the gyms and things. Like, what's your take on how do you go about trying to meet people organically in the real world?
I don't know if I'd say I go about it.
Okay.
I honestly just think it will happen as it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
And I will just put myself in the same situations that I would put myself in regardless.
Yeah,
and
just live life.
I'm living my life. And I know that I can meet people anywhere. And I have actually, like, I think I've proven that to myself in times, like just connecting with people in random locations you never would have thought, whether it's someone just talking to you, like, at the beach or at a cafe. Like, people do connect in organic settings. You just have to do the things that you like to do. And, you know, gyms are a great place. I think gyms are hard because a lot of people don't want to interrupt you.
I was just going to say gyms, I feel like it can be a little bit difficult.
Unless it's like the group fitness style gym where people
group
chat.
versus like solo gym. Solo gym, very difficult because you don't want to be the creepy dude who's like going up to a girl, like, you know, interrupting her in the middle of her set or something like that.
Yeah, I've also been told I have a pretty gnarly resting gym face, so
same.
I don't think I'm very approachable in that setting.
And the thing is, I'm like, I probably don't want you to come and talk to me in the middle of a gym. Group
like
gym,
I'm timing
different.
my rest periods, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll be like talking to someone, being like looking down at like my watch, being like, okay, like that's a short date. You've got 2 minutes of me in between sets. But yeah, I probably don't want you to speak to me in like the middle of the gym. I wouldn't say like solo gym is. I haven't even met like friends or really anything through there. Oh no, in Melbourne I've met a couple of friends. But the group setting, I encourage group gyms to everyone now, which is actually very strange because I used to be very, very against them.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about that on another topic on a fitness one. But I used to be like, I don't fucking do that. I'm not, you know, jumping around on a bozu ball with doing bicep curls. Like, it's a lot better now. But I encourage it to everyone now to make friends.
Yeah, it is a really good social environment. I also think the programming has improved
gotten a lot
over
better.
the last few years with those sorts of settings. But yeah, it is a more social fitness based environment than a gym where you just go and train and lift weights by yourself.
Yeah.
I think I had a convo with my dad about dating, like when I was in like bodybuilding prep, and I was like, well, I'm probably not going to meet anyone, Dad. Like, I'm just going to the gym and then to Coles. Like, unless they're like
Yeah.
at the supermarket waiting for me, like it's probably just not the right time for me to be dating because
Yeah.
I'm not really putting myself in other positions. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think try and put yourself in positions where you want to be, but also that it is a social setting that other people might feel more comfortable approaching you and chatting to you.
Yeah. I mean, on the prep thing, it's like, yeah, but if you're at the gym at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night and there's also another person there at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, you're like, oh my God, we like doing the same non-fun thing on a Saturday night. It's a pretty easy filter.
True.
I would just write down as well, like, confidence. I think, like, you have to carry yourself in a certain way as well. I don't think, say, for like when you're doing, you know, living your life, doing whatever, not going into it with like the expectation of like, all right, I'm like open to meeting people, but it's just kind of like carrying yourself in a way that like people think that they can approach you, because and that's a friend thing as well. Like, I mean, you and I have made like quite a few friends up here, and I think a lot of it is because we do try and instigate conversations or, you know, make the other person feel, you know, comfortable and welcome and like whatever it is. So kind of like being the leader, I guess, in that social setting. I think sometimes people feel maybe like they're giving off a warmer vibe than they are. And it's probably just a lack of confidence or feeling a bit shy. Like, I don't think it's like a malice thing. But if you're going to say like the group gym setting or whatever, and you just go and sit in the corner, like, yeah, no one's going to come and speak to you. Like, even if it feels scary, I sometimes set like little challenges for people. It's like, just talk to one person. Like, just introduce yourself to one person and ask them one question.
Yeah. And it can be a friend as well. Like, it doesn't have to be someone of the opposite sex, like, or the same sex, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, like, just trying to challenge yourself to make a human connection, like when you're in those settings, is like good practice.
100, because it's a skill.
Yeah.
Like, it's 100% a skill that, you know, the apps and Instagram and all of that and stuff is really affecting like how we, like, a lot of people don't have it anymore. Just the ability to like go up and like speak to someone. Like, we get scared. We like, how many times do you, I'm probably going to go on a bit of a rant here. How many times do you like look at someone in the eyes and they look away? Like, people can't like hold eye contact, or you'll be like walking down the street or whatever, and like everyone's kind of like in these like slumped down positions, you know, looking at the ground. And it's like all of these little like body language things is you saying to the world, don't look at me.
Yeah, I think people just don't operate in the present very much nowadays, because we have like our phones, we have access to like this other world at all times.
Yeah.
So we're just not operating in the present moment.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, just start taking note of these things, because I talk to myself in my head a lot. And sometimes if I'm like walking down the street or like walking through the gym or whatever, I'll be like, stand up or like look up, because all of those little things have like a feedback mechanism to like how I feel on the inside. Like, if I'm standing up tall and I'm looking people in the eyes and I'm smiling at them and saying hello and whatever, it makes me feel better. But it's also me saying to the world that like, hey, I'm deserve to take up space. I'm open for conversation. Like, I feel good about who I am. And that invites connections in. I can attest to it. Like, because it makes people want to, you're like a glow, you know what I mean? Like, it makes people like want to be around you. And so at the start, like, it might feel not natural, especially if you're used to like trying to make yourself small or like not speaking to people or always looking at your phone. Like, every single time there's a silent, you know, moment, like, just kind of learn to just be with yourself or not have to distract constantly. Just those small like little tweaks and stuff can just start to make you feel like, hey, I can hold myself in a conversation. I can go up and speak to someone and, you know, feel good about who I am and look them in their eyes and, you know, listen, like all of these sorts of things that can help. Like, it's just communication and like learning how to connect with people will help kind of if you're struggling like with just the dating apps, because it's like you got to learn how to almost like be a person again with all this technology around.
Yeah, I think it also applies just to meeting like-minded friends as well, like carrying yourself in that open way. Because I know I have a lot of conversations with clients, for example, who are really health and fitness focused. They're like, I'm really struggling to find like-minded friends.
Oh
Like,
my
it's
God, we need to do an
exactly the
episode
same.
on this.
Yeah, we'll do an episode on actually like finding your people
Finding
and
friends,
like
yeah.
meeting like-minded friends separately. But yeah, I think let's move on from talking about meeting people organically, and maybe we can talk about how social media and like all the different apps that we have now, like Snapchat, etc., kind of impacts dating and I guess the amount of options that people have, therefore the amount of investment that they have, and even security in relationships, because there's just so many options out there for people.
Yeah, I think when we were like planning this episode, I wrote down people are now disposable because it's just on to the next, on to the next. Like, that kind of annoyed me. I'll just go speak to somebody else. Or people might be speaking to multiple people at the same time. I don't know how people do that. Like, my brain is fried just trying to speak to my friends. But yeah, I think it's just this kind of like, I have so many options that we don't want to put work into like just one. And I think we get this almost like, when I say we, I definitely don't mean you and me, the world. Like FOMO, right? It's like, well, if I speak to this person, what about this person? Like I might, not get whatever they're going to give me. And it's this always kind of like Instagram feeds into that of like always showing you, like the things that you're not doing, the people you're not with, the party you weren't invited to. It's all the same kind of stuff. Like, oh, but what could be around that corner? And you forget about like what's in front of you.
Yeah, and everything also looks all shiny and new and exciting on Instagram as well. Like I think if someone is, starting to date one person, but they have all these other like shiny, exciting other options on Instagram or Hinge or whatever it is, then it makes them really hard to like actually put investment into that one connection that they're trying to make.
Yeah.
And I mean, call me old school, but I feel like I would prefer to see where one connection goes and decide whether it's a yes or a no before then trying to explore a different one. Otherwise, it just gets so muddy and confusing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really sitting back and going, well, what's the goal here? Because if the goal is connection, you're not connecting with 5 different people at the same time. You might be exchanging messages and maybe spending some time with them, but you're not really getting to know them, seeing who they are, letting them see who you are. I think it's a lot of like fear of vulnerability as well, because it's like, okay, well, I can play surface level with 5 different people.
Well, you're less likely to get rejection, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've got 5 options, then even if you get rejected by some, then you've got the others to kind of validate you. So it's probably comes down to that a little bit, why people like having so many options.
It's also if you're like playing on the surface with someone and they reject you, you kind of feel less hurt because you're like, oh, well, they didn't really know me anyway. You know what I mean? Like, whereas if you've let someone in and you've like, spent a decent amount of time with them, that feels a lot worse because it feels like an actual rejection of you.
Yeah. I think with the speaking to multiple people thing as well, people tend to not behave in the way that you would want them to in a dating context. Like, because they are less invested, because they have more options, we tend to get that like kind of shitty behavior from people that we are talking to. And I feel like our standards of that have lowered a lot in terms of the behaviors that we are like willing to accept from someone that we're talking to, because generally their low investment means that, they're not replying for ages, or they're not actually asking you to do something. They're just like liking your stories and like sending you like little bits of validation without, without actually like taking any initiative to see you. And we almost start getting these like shitty behaviors that I guess that in itself probably we need to flag as like, this person's not actually just invested in me. Like their intentions might not be where you want them to be.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like people will sit there and like complain about that, maybe that they're not making a plan or whatever, or that they're just, sending them a DM once a week or whatever it is. But they'll let them keep doing it because it's a little bit of attention, right? So it's like they kind of sit there and and go like, oh, he's not making a plan, or like, he responded to my story. Like, what does it mean? Nothing. Like, it means nothing. It means that he was bored and it was Saturday, if like, 9 p.m. and his other 4 girls didn't respond. Like, it sounds harsh, but it is. And like, the thing is, I'm harsh with myself, like, as well. Like, that's like, and you have to cut them off. Like, in my opinion, like, you have to kind of, not that cutthroat, but you can't sit there and with the 10 guys in your DMs and go, oh, well, like, none of them are putting effort in. Well, stop talking to them. Like, stop playing in that field and expecting like a Prince Charming to come along, because like, it's, oh, he's got 10% of my energy. He's got 10% of my energy. Like, you have to be okay with like having no one DMing you for there to be space for the right person too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, agree with that for sure.
All right, I think we should wrap it up there. What is your kind of key takeaway from today, or something that, I don't know, you think people should either like know about dating, or something that they could maybe like take forwards?
I think the key takeaway, I want to make it clear that there's no right or wrong way. And if you like dating apps and you can use them in a way where you're not putting, I guess, too much pressure on the outcome that comes from them, because you obviously, just by pure like the amount of numbers that are on there, like, you're going to have to go through a lot of not so good ones to find a good one on a dating app in that sort of environment. There's nothing wrong with using dating apps as long as you can approach it from a place where you're not too connected to the outcome of it. But I think if you don't like them, just know that you don't have to be on them. Like, I think there's a lot of pressure to do so. But yeah, for me recently, I have just thought to myself, I don't like them. They aren't aligning with me. So I would so much rather just take my chances that I'm going to meet someone organically, and truly believe in that, because I think what you kind of believe you create as well. So if you believe that you can't meet someone organically, well, you probably won't, because you're going to create your reality. So if you aren't into dating apps, just put yourself out there and like go to all those places that we spoke about where you do feel like your most authentic self. Like, go to the sauna, like go to the group fitness class, like put yourself in situations where you are able to meet like-minded people, and don't feel like you have to rely on the apps if they're not for you.
Yeah. And I mean, just on that, before I get into mine, it's like, if you remove the other option, you're more likely to go and do the activities. Like, if you don't have the Sunday night scroll option, maybe you will go on, the group stuff or whatever. Whereas if like you've always got the kind of easy option, you're less likely to get off the couch and go and do the activity. So it's like, you got to kind of increase your motivation by getting rid of the other option.
Yeah, totally. But there are people who have met their partners on dating apps and like are married, and it definitely can work. So yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you aren't enjoying it and it's not making you feel good, you don't have to be on it.
Yeah, because it can feel, and I have felt, like, oh, is this the only way? Like, if I delete these, am I giving up kind of thing? But yeah, there's definitely other ways. My takeaway would probably be to just go into it trying to act in a way where like you're treating other people like the way that you want to be treated. Like, I know it's like a very like old school saying, but I try and take this into every situation that I have in dating. So say if I'm like, I had been speaking to someone and I was like, I know that I don't want this to continue. Yeah, it's very easy to ghost, right? It's just like kind of stop replying, or maybe I just take longer to reply. Maybe they'll get, and I'm like, always think, what would I want this person to do? And it's probably the more difficult thing, but I'm like, I would just want them to tell me like, hey, it's been great, but like, I don't think this is going to progress any further. Yeah, it stings in the minute, but like, then you're not left with like the anxiety. So just kind of like going into these situations, just trying to treat other people like the way that you would want to be treated. Because I think we can get cynical, right? Where it's like, oh, well, I've been burned by 10 people. Fuck it. I'll just start burning other people. And it's like, that's just a very slippery slope. I think it's just like, be the change. Like, if you want people to treat you well, then just treat other people well and just trust that will kind of like come back to you.
Yeah, I love that. I think it would be so nice if people could be a little bit more upfront in terms of their intentions and actually close something rather than just ghosting people as well. That is
world
another...
would be a better place.
We could probably go on and on about that as well. But yeah, I think that's the other issue with modern dating, is that people aren't very upfront in terms of like what they want and whether or not they want to discontinue something with you, like they'll just stop replying and disappear off the face of the earth. Like, yeah, a little bit more.
There's more juice in this episode. Okay.
Yeah.
We did like a dating part 2.
Yeah. So it would be nice if more people were just a bit more upfront, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of what they actually want.
Like expectations,
Yeah.
communication. Yeah, there's more here. We'll do a part 2. Anyway, guys, that is us for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know and share with your friends as well, because we know that there's a lot of you out there navigating the dating world, and hopefully this can just help a little bit. So yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.